Hello, everyone, and welcome. I'd like to record a quick video talking about what I believe to be the two primary strategies during the sacrifice phase. The sacrifice phase has just started about a day ago. The price of HEX is about 16 cents, though today was as high as 20. Currently, the liquidity of HEX is about 60 million. Last night, it was 96 million. Every day, it's becoming more and more scarce as people waited up until now to buy HEX and sacrifice it. So today I'm going to show off a great document that was created by a legendary community member, 𝙀𝙭𝙥𝙖𝙧𝙚. This was the document that I conceptualized a day ago when Richard released the last bit of information about the Pulse sacrifice. Um, I was just busy yesterday. I couldn't really sit down and write it all through, but it looked like last night Gunther created this document, and it is brilliant. It's better than what I could ever ask for. And I spent a few hours today just fact checking this document, and everything checks out. So let me first explain what we're looking at here, explain the numbers behind it. I'll show you why it is the way it is. And then we'll talk about what I believe to be the two main strategies available within the HEX sacrifice. And spoiler alert, these two strategies that I'm going to introduce, they're just as simple as a conservative strategy and then a much more speculative strategy. So again, as everything else in cryptos, everything else in HEX, you are in control. You take on the responsibility, and you can make your similar to stakes as long as big as you want and as short and spread out as you want. So similar to this, you can choose just to go all in the beginning and just kind of not let it take over your mind and your life. Or if you're if you'd like to take on the risk, you can dollar cost average throughout the period and perhaps get a better multiple at the end. That's kind of up to you to decide how much of a risk appetite you have. So what we're looking at here is the duration of the sacrifice period. And again, if I scroll down, you did a great job of pasting screen grabs of what's been released so far. So when sacrifice was announced, this line chart was updated to have a flat line of the first 5 days and then linearly increase, right? Meaning the first 5 days, you're going to get the best rate for sacrifice points, which and then in turn should hypothetically translate to pulse tokens. Meaning if you were to sacrifice on day one and hex is 10 cents, you're going to get the total USD value with a ratio of 10,000 to 1 of sacrifice points. Meanwhile, if you wait until the end, you're going to get a ratio that's twice as worse, meaning that the pulse points will be twice as valuable, right? Because now they're $2 instead of $1. So they're going to be more costly. But on the flip side, if the price of the underlying token that you're sacrificing, in this case being HEX, increases and increases at a faster rate than the depreciation of the sacrifice compared to the first and last day, well, then you're going to get a much bigger multiple of your HEX sacrifice points at the last day. So the factors that are coming to play is the time of the sacrifice, the day that you're sacrificing, because that'll translate to the rate that you're exchanging the USD value for sacrifice points. And it's also a volume bonus multiplier. So this section here. Now this one is a very much a gray area. Essentially means that every single day there will be an additional bonus given depending on the quantity of your sacrifice. And there's an opportunity to earn as much as 2.5x on top of everything you sacrificed, depending on where it's going to rank with everyone else. So every day you participate in a pool with everyone else who's sacrificing. And if you're sacrificing more than the next guy, well, then you're going to get closer to earning that 2.5x multiplier. Meaning if you're a really big, meaning if you're a whale, sacrificing a large quantity, well, then you're more likely to get an additional 2.5x multiplier for your sacrifice bag versus if you're maybe like a crab and you're just kind of putting in a few thousand hex or tens of thousands of hex. Well, you're likely going to be at the bottom of the ladder and then just getting a minor multiplier, maybe a 1.1x or something similar. So that adds into the game theory, right? You could speculate that from just this chart, it seems like day 5 will be where everyone's going to go in, right? Because they're going to give it 5 days for the price of hex to appreciate. And then they're going to say, okay, this is the best rate I'm going to be able to sacrifice hex for. Let me just throw into my bag now. And because it'll be a very crowded day, you're probably not going to get as good of a multiplier as you would other days because you're competing with so many more people. So there's a case to be made sacrificing earlier, even though maybe the price of hex won't be as high as it can potentially be on day 5. And there's a case to be made waiting later and sacrificing your entire bag on day 8, 9, 10, etc. Because it'll be less crowded and you could potentially rank better than if you were to sacrifice on day 5, right? So already a few mechanics that play into this. So let's break down this chart and let's play with the variables, get to our 2 strategies, all right? Right, so the x-axis is going to be our time, right? And the y-axis is going to be what if the price of hex increases? Could you have gotten a better multiple for your sacrifice if you had done it later in the period rather than earlier? And how does it play into the price of hex, right? How much of a multiple could it be depending on the price? So I'm going to paste a link to this Google Docs in the video bio. So feel free to check it out. You just have to click on make a copy, and then you can have an editable copy. You can manipulate the numbers. You can paste whatever hex sacrifice amount you're working with, what the current price of hex is, and what your assumed volume bonus multiplier could be. There's also 2 of these. So there's a variable table 1 and a variable table 2. There's no difference between them except that it'll just be for varying amounts of hex. So originally this was for 1,000,000 hex. I'm going to turn it down to 10,000 and make it a little bit more realistic to what people are going to be sacrificing, right? So if, let's say, for example, we're sacrificing, I'm going to put it at 100,000 hex, right? I think 100,000 hex is not that crazy for, again, an opportunity of a lifetime to get into Richard Hart's newest project. He's already got a track record. So a lot of people, though they wish they would have gotten on day 1, they feel like they missed the boat. This is an opportunity for them to get in on day 1 and secure that major multiple that a brilliantly designed Richard Hart token can have within the first year, right? So Hex did, now it's like 2,500x within a year and a half. Wouldn't you have liked to get in on day 1 and had to ride that that multiple, right? So that could be potentially the opportunity we have here in Pulse. So if I put in 100,000 hex that we're sacrificing, the current price is 16 cents as of the recording on July 15th. Now here, this is why it's important that says it's your assumed volume bonus multiplier. We really don't know what this will be. And more importantly, there's nowhere to check. So there will, in Richard Hart's last live stream, he confirmed that there is no front end, and he does not expect there to be a front end because it would be so complicated to develop just for a period of 2 weeks to show the volume. So all we have to go off of is the balance of the addresses. Here's, for example, the main Ethereum address. It's currently at over 110 million. He's confirmed that now there's about 20 million donated to the Sens Foundation. And then there's another Bitcoin wallet with more sacrifice tokens, right? So all we can go off is that. It doesn't really break down what the volume was per day. It's already a crazy number. A lot of people were expecting it to be 250 million throughout the entire period. And within the first day, we have over, like well over 100 million. So this can get really crazy really quickly. Um, so for the assumed multiplier, this is really going to depend on the quantity you're looking to sacrifice. If I was looking to sacrifice maybe like 10 million hex, well then I'm probably going to rank a little bit better, and there I would maybe set my multiplier to be closer to 2, maybe like 1.9, in case I may suspect there's whales that are going to outbid me, right? But if I'm just looking to sacrifice 100K, then I would assume I would be near the bottom of the ladder, and maybe I would put like 1.25. I think 1.25 is very fair, right? So changing this value is going to change the dollar amount, and it's going to change with the last 3 days of rank. So what I'm going to primarily focus on in this tutorial is weighing the pros and cons of sacrificing at different times in the sacrifice phase, as well as perhaps considering waiting until the end of the sacrifice. Though we looked at this chart that showed a linear progression and depreciation of the sacrifice, uh, in this section, uh, Richard has outlined something that I think is too good to be true, but apparently it's this way. So during days, I think it says it here, during the days 1 to 16, uh, the the volume bonus multiplier will be between 1 to 2.5 and vary based on where you sit in the ladder. And so therefore it's ideal for whales because they can lock in that 2.5x, on day 5, for example, and not have to speculate thereafter. But for other people, like I said, perhaps squids, crabs, um, you know, I think there's a case to be made to wait after the first 5 days and see what the price of hex is and consider sacrificing then. Now, during days 17, 18, and 19, there will be a fixed flat bonus of only 1.75x, meaning regardless of where you're going to sit in the ladder that day, you are going to get a fixed bonus of 1.75x. Meaning, if I change this variable and I'm a whale, like we looked at previously, and I can expect to get a 2.5 multiplier, well, then it makes absolutely no sense for me to wait until the last 3 days because I'm still getting the best multiplier earlier on in the sacrifice period. But if I'm, someone who's only sacrificing 100,000 and I'd assume to be lower on that rank, and I'd put like 1.1 or 1.2, well, then you can see that the table automatically adjusts and shows preferability waiting until those last 3 days. This is calculated in this table with the second row where it shows during periods 1 to 16, it's a varied bonus multiplier, and then showing that days 17, 18, 19, it's a fixed 1.75. At this price of 16 cents, if you were to sacrifice your entire 100,000 within the first 5 days, it would come out to earn you about 20, like $19,000 dollars worth of sacrifice, right? Which is great. But what if you had waited a few more days and let hex appreciate from beyond 16 cents to perhaps, I don't know, 25 cents, right? So let's say it'll take hex, just throwing numbers out there, like 10 days to go from 16 cents to 25 cents, all right? So 10 days will put you in this column here. And then if we're suspecting that, maybe projecting at this rate or whatever rate you calculate, that it could end up being 25 cents, well, then you're going to end up with F23. And thus saying that this yellow, these are kind of like moving averages. If the price would have steadily increased, also sacrifice 19,000, but because the price has increased faster, right, than this linear progression, you're now be able to sacrifice 22,000 worth of hex. So nearly 3,000, an extra $3,000 worth, right? But if obviously if you wait too long, that could play against you, right? What if, for all we know, the price can stalemate, right? It just kind of goes flatline. It could very much go flatline, and then you end up with a worse ratio, right? If it ends up only reaching 25 cents near the end, well, then you're left with, like $17,000 worth. But according to the volume bonus multiplier, which is going to be fixed at 1.75, because you're sacrificing a lower amount of quantity, and therefore you wouldn't expect to rank as highly earlier on, sacrificing after day 17 could actually yield you a better return, right? So just the fact that you wait until the 17th day, well, then now you're not getting $18,000 worth of sacrifice. You're getting $25,000 worth of sacrifice. So the game theory behind the Pulsechain sacrifice has been brilliantly designed for all participants, right? If you're a whale, you can capture another 2.5 volume bonus uh, earlier on. And if you sacrifice all at once, well, then you're going to rank better. If you're someone who has an appetite for risk and you're looking to perhaps dollar cost average, because perhaps so far, you've been into HEX for a few months or a few weeks or several months, and you've learned that the best thing you can do, the safest strategy with speculating on crypto is dollar cost averaging. So your options are, depending on the quantity you're looking to sacrifice, perhaps it's something significant like, a million HEX. And then maybe that'll put you in a multiplier of like 1.6. Well, then obviously prioritize getting in sooner than day 17, right? But if you're going to be dollar cost averaging, you're not going to be getting a high multiplier. Maybe you'll be getting one or one and a bit if you're going to be putting in a little bit each day. So I believe the safe strategy, the first strategy you have, is not letting the sacrifice phase take over your life and just sacrificing within the first 5 days, right? The game theory there is wondering whether do I go in on day 3 when the ranks will be less crowded, right? This ladder of getting the best volume multiplier will be less crowded, and I could potentially get a 1.8 versus a 1.4 during day 5 when it's a crowded ladder. And even though it's hard to gauge where I'll sit, I can kind of figure that, oh, that day there was like, 100 million or maybe $200 million worth of sacrificed. And, I just kind of figure from a rough calculation that, my tiny amount that I sacrifice is not nearly as high as other people's. And that's if you're risk averse, right? You just want to participate, you want to get in and just lock it within the first 5 days when you get the best rate. Um, but if you're someone who's looking at the liquidity and they're seeing how every single day the circulating supply of HEX, not only was it already super scarce, but it's becoming so much more scarce. And just due to basic math, you realize that any little bit of economic energy is going to pump the price of HEX. Thus, you are better off dollar cost averaging little by little, right? Now let's talk about the dollar cost average strategy. I think the best strategy for dollar cost averaging in this environment is going to be doing what you would be doing when you want to exit HEX, or at least exit with your interest, right? Become a seller of HEX, which is what Richard recommends. You begin to set limit orders. So you're not dumping at market, you're setting limit orders at future price levels and selling when it wicks up there, right? So in this case, you would go on TradingView and set alerts at maybe 20 cents, 25 cents, 30 cents, and beyond. And then if you're on day 8, for example, and you get an alert, a whale just bought another $1 million worth of HEX due to the liquidity, that's moved the price up to 30 cents, making you look at at row 33. At day 10, now you're in this darker shade. Now, even though you could have just sacrificed 176,000, if you're sacrificing $1 million worth, a million HEX worth, now you're sacrificing, um, like nearly double that amount because You had speculated that the price was going to amplify due to the scarcity of the underlying token and therefore yield you a better sacrifice USD value. And then game theory becomes, how much of my allocated amount of hex am I sacrificing? Am I sacrificing the entirety of it and perhaps getting a better multiplier than 1.1? Maybe I can put myself at 1.75, and then all of a sudden day 10, no, that's this one, it's 411,000 because I'm ranking better because I'm putting in my entire bag and getting a great multiplier. Or am I dollar cost averaging? That I put in a little bit on day 10, and then I would change this to like 1.1 again, and now it's back down to 258, right? And then another day, I have an alert go off, throughout, like in the afternoon, in the evening, whenever I'm available to sacrifice, I get an alert that Hex just hit, 34 cents, or yeah, 34 cents. And that puts me at this level, right? And I can put a little bit more. I'm not gonna get a great multiplier, but I'm gonna be able to get a larger value of the Hex bag that I was sacrificing. And then come the day 17, 18, 19. So if this is true, and if we're understanding it correctly as it's written, there's a case to be made that even if Hex kind of flatlines at 20 cents, and you get to day 17, well, it's a great opportunity to actually get in at that point, right? So I hope that has been clear enough. I hope that you've learned that there's a safe strategy to sacrificing Hex where you can just focus on getting in the first 5 days and prioritizing going all in so you can get the best volume multiplier, or perhaps spreading it out throughout the first 5 days just to get a better position in the less crowded ladder. Or on the flip side, if you got an appetite for risk and you really think that the price of Hex can go up, then there's a case to be made to waiting and dollar cost averaging throughout the period, and perhaps even saving the bulk of your bag for the last 3 days of the sacrifice. I hope this has been informative. I hope this video wasn't too long. Leave a thumbs up. Leave a comment if you have any questions. Please check out this table in the video description. And I hope you have a pleasant sacrifice. It can be a very stressful period. People are running around. They don't know what's going to be the best thing to do. They don't know where Hex is going to go. Could it dump? Could this be an opportunity for some people to get out of Hex and now they're looking to sell? Or are people realizing, no, like if you're trying to get in on day one on Richard Hart's next big project, there's a case to be made to buy Hex, stake it. There's even a case to be made to stake it so you can get a duplicate and then sacrifice what you have to earn the best multiplier when it launches. Last thing I want to leave off on is the people who I speak to, the people who have booked me for a one-on-one. I've been saying that, or like the advice. Obviously, I don't give financial advice, but the kind of the entertaining advice that I've been providing is if you're getting it now, it's a better idea to just sacrifice, take advantage of the infancy of the pulse during the first year, and speculate that it'll multiply at a quicker rate than Hex will from this point forward. Getting to $1, which is like a big number to us so far, due to unit bias, is only a 5x, right? So if you kind of hold on to Hex and it reaches $1, that'll just be 5x your money, like roughly speaking. Whereas on Pulse, if it just does a fraction, if it does a quarter of the price performance that Hex had, well, then it would be 250x, right? So that's advice I've been giving, that if you're just getting in now, it might not be a bad idea just to go in all on Pulse, let it mature throughout the first 3, 6, 12 months, whatever you decide, and then jump back into P-Hex or E-Hex from that point forward. But now, as things are unraveling, and it's only been a day since the sacrifice phase has started, I'm getting more and more FOMO and actually just holding on to the Hex. So Johnny KS is moving forward with the lawsuit on Coinmarketcap, even through the sacrifice phase. due to some people pitching into the lawsuit. They're filing it in the few states that would give the case preferential treatment to the HEX side, and they're going to be moving forward with a class action lawsuit to come against to go against CoinMarketCap for the inaccurate listing of HEX at rank 201 for the past year, and it hasn't budged even though we've been getting 30% the past few days. And then subsequent to that, they will be suing them for the market manipulation because CoinMarketCap is the most popular APY that sites like Coinbase, Blockfolio, crypto.com, they use to pull statistics on the price of crypto, the rank of crypto in the market cap. So it's a very, very serious, and big deal. And as soon as those gates come down and the masses realize the lies they've been fed and how much they've been blinded from not only projects like HEX, but what other projects have come out in the past year that are superior to other projects that have also been gatekept, right? So this is an issue beyond HEX. I want everyone to be understanding of that. This is a fight for censorship resistance. This is a fight for honesty. And I feel like when they open up the closet of skeletons, they're not only going to let out the beast of HEX, but they're going to let out other projects that have been suppressed, that have been censored, and have been gatekept. So for those reasons, as soon as those gates come down, and there's no ETA on whether that could be class action lawsuits, sometimes last years, months, it depends how quickly they're willing to concede. When those gates come down, we might get a crazy multiple in HEX, something even crazier than Pulse, right? But at the end of the day, regardless of whether Pulse is going to outperform HEX in its first year, or whether HEX is going to outperform Pulse when the gates come down, or just due to its scarce liquidity, where even without the gates coming down, there's barely any HEX available to buy. And with just one whale being in HEX so far, imagine what would happen with 5 whales, right? They're going to be fighting over the last little bit of HEX that's available. But what I want to leave off on is the disclaimer down here, right? So it's really important to consider that you are sending your bag of HEX or other crypto into the abyss, specifically to support the political statement that speech is a basic human right and blockchain are speech. All right. That's exactly what I'm doing. I've been burned by Ethereum. I've paid thousands of dollars in gas fees creating my ladder and dollar cost averaging through I don't know, 70 buy orders that I've had, maybe a little more. I've spent thousands of dollars of Ethereum, and I'm looking to make a political statement and say, no, I don't think that, and I don't want to participate on the Ethereum blockchain. I think there should be something with better throughput, with a superior game theory, with yield farming as a native option. And I want to participate in Pulse instead. So please look at this as a long-term investment strategy. This is, as much as this savings vehicle has been a get-rich-quick scheme this year and last year, it's really important to emphasize that you shouldn't be looking to make a quick buck on this. This is something where you should be looking at becoming more responsible with your investing. You should be looking at alternatives to legacy markets, and you should be looking at staking because the T-shares is the only thing that matters in this game. And currently, T-shares, as of mid-July, cost $3,000. Okay, let that sink in. A year and a half ago, they were 60 cents. A year from now, it could be what, 200,000? A few years from then, $1 million per T-share, right? Currently, a B share costs $3. So a B share costs more than a T-share costs at its lowest. So things are moving really, really rapidly, and it's important to get on the train. Obviously, be smart with your sacrifice. That's why I'm making this video. No need to FOMO, unless you just want to secure a bag and just sleep well at night. But if you need to kind of grind to get a better spot, then you should consider dollar cost averaging, you should be considering sacrificing later on through the period. Because if you're working with a smaller quantity of HEX tokens, and you're looking to dollar cost average to spread your risk, the last 3 days could actually be preferable to do that. All right. So I hope you guys learned something. I hope the length of this video didn't lose too many people. But as always, hit the subscribe button, follow me for more content, and just follow the journey, right? Because the next video I want to put out is going to be a video themed about libertarianism. It's going to be, and future videos are going to start being travel videos, right? So yeah, hope you guys enjoyed, and take care.